Oh, hey YouTube. If you wish to create a video from scratch, you must first invent the camera. Or at least I think that's how the saying goes, but regardless, the first motion picture camera was invented in the late 1800s, so that ship has all but sailed. But what would it take for us to build from scratch our very own video camera? And I don't mean the kind of camera you might see filming irrefutable evidence of a UFO's existence. No, I'm talking about a camera capable of producing an image so good that even the harshest of critics mightn't realize they're looking at it. So where do you start making a video camera? Well, the first thing we need to do is decide what kind of camera we want to make. Digital or film? A digital camera is going to be so much easier and cheaper for us to build because we can see how the image looks immediately. So we're going to go film. The one where if you want to watch the video you just took, you have to wait 3 weeks every time. What am I doing with my life? Despite this hindrance, film actually has a very big draw card for us. The film camera, the part we have to make, is basically just a light tight box. All of the praise that you hear nerds singing about film's image quality can be attributed to the film stock itself, the stuff that we just buy from Kodak. This means that in theory, we should be capable of capturing images exactly like this. Well, not exactly. These were shot on a format known as IMAX, which uses a strip of film that is 65mm wide. Just 8 minutes worth of footage on IMAX costs more than I earn in a whole hour. 35mm is another really popular movie format, and it looks beautiful. However, we're not stand-up maths, still too expensive. So instead, we're gonna build a camera that uses 16mm film. Shall we begin? Okay. No, you guys just watch. I'll do literally everything. It's fine. Okay, so as far as I can tell, the most important thing that a film camera does is move film past the lens. So let's start there. Now, while this kind of sounds simple, we can't just move that film through the camera at a consistent speed. Let's imagine that this roll of paper is our film strip, and this little red texture here is a little red laser dot. If we were to shine our laser onto our film strip, we'd leave a nice sharp dot. But let's see what happens to our little red dot when we press record and the film starts moving. Basically, instead of that sharp little red dot we got when the film was stationary, the laser ends up being recorded as this big long streak. So I think it's now easy enough to imagine that if we were to move the film through our camera at a consistent speed, just like we did with the paper, our shot would end up looking something like this. So if we're only able to capture an accurate representation of the light source when the film is stationary, then the film needs to be stationary. But at the same time, we can't just expose all the frames of our video onto the exact same little bit of film, overlapping one frame with the next until you just can't see anything. So it also has to move. And here we have discovered one of the most mechanically complicated things that a motion picture film camera has to do. This is a real 16mm camera. It was designed in the 1970s, but since 16mm's birth in the early 20s, pretty much all the cameras have used the same fundamental design. And if we take a look inside, we can see it achieves our seemingly impossible task by using a little claw that pokes through a perforation in the film, drags it down so that an unexposed part of the film is in front of the lens, and then lets it go, leaving it completely stationary and ready to capture the next frame. And keep in mind, our camera will have to do this 25 times every second. It's sophisticated, it's precise. Is it something I'm capable of replicating? No. I mean, just look at it. But after doing some thinking, I realised the designers of the early 1900s must have been pretty distracted by something because they missed a far simpler solution. Instead of the try-hard claw and gear setup they had going on, they could have just used a 3D printed sprocket pressed onto the shaft of a stepper motor controlled by an Arduino to do the same thing. All right, ready for the coolest thing you have ever seen? Which I understand to your untrained and inferior eyes might not look that impressive, but watch what happens when we slow the footage down. The Arduino is commanding the stepper motor to rotate the sprocket exactly one frame and then come to a complete stop before moving again. And it does this 25 times every second. Which means if we got all our timing right, we should be able to film it with the camera shooting at 25 frames a second and everything should look frozen in motion. Now at this point, many of you might be thinking to yourselves, all right, Henry, sure the film is now coming to a complete and stationary stop, but then it just moves again. Is that not going to leave the streaks in the image? Well, to you I'd say, shutter. We need to make a shutter. If light hitting the film while it's moving is what causes those forbidden streaks in the image, then we're gonna have to remove something from the equation. But as we've seen, the film has to move, so the only thing we can do is eliminate the light. Alright, so this is kind of our camera. So the film comes off the feed spool, comes down into this little part we were just making. This is where our sprocket is, and that's where it's exposed to light. It then comes back down here and winds back up onto the take-up spool. Now, everything back here is inside of a completely light-proof box. The only place that light actually hits our film is through this little cutout on the front, and this is called the film gate. So in order to prevent the streaking, we need some way of quickly covering the gate just before the film moves so that absolutely no light hits it while it's in motion. And this is the job of the shutter. In most all motion picture cameras, the shutter is just a rotating segment of a disc. If we sit this disc above our film gate, as it spins, it will close the gate and prevent light from entering, then open it, then close it again, and so on. This intermittent cover from light combined with our film's intermittent motion is how we can satisfy our seemingly contradictory constraints. So if we attach our shutter to another stepper motor, look at that, and then run some more film through, you'll notice that whenever the film is exposed to light, it's completely stationary. No, it isn't, damn it. The stepper motor that's spinning the sprocket to move the film is already turning as fast as it can. Any increase in that speed and it misses its steps, it doesn't work. So I'm actually not sure how we're gonna make the film complete its move before the shutter opens again, but yeah, it looks like Kai Henry is doing something fun over there actually. So I might send you over to hang out with him and I'll work this out and he'll send you back when I'm ready. So go and have fun. Guys, I got a sponsor. Basically this really cool company named Licht, they sort of just reached out and were just like, hey Henry, we love you, or something like that. Look, I'm sorry. Look at me talking about business again. Tonight was meant to be just about us. Anyway, regardless, here we are. Now, up until this point, I haven't monetized any of my videos because to me, using the music that I want to use, which happens to be copyright music, has been more important. But thanks to Licht, copyright music and monetization are no longer mutually exclusive. Licht lets you affordably license music from many mainstream artists, some really unique songs that not only make people more likely to want to watch your videos, but make you more likely to want to edit them. They have over 1.4 million tracks from artists like Skrillex, Spandau Ballet, Lupe Fiasco, Justin Bieber, and you can use any of them in your videos and still monetize it. And Licht will be keeping a close eye on it to protect it from any copyright strikes. What do you say? Thank you, Licht. If you have already had a look at their catalog and didn't quite find what you were after, I recommend you check again. They're adding new songs very frequently. Now, if you guys use my little link down in the description, then Licht are generously offering one free mainstream song along with a 7-day free trial. But just do keep in mind that at the end of that 7-day trial, if you don't cancel it, it will roll over. So if you love it like I do, then great. But if not, just keep that in mind. So please check that link out. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much to Licht for helping out in this video and for just offering an awesome product. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure you guys do as well. So with that, we need to go and see if Henry fixed the shutter. Day and night. Welcome back. I toss and turn, I keep stressing my mind. It is such a mess in here. Oh well, I think I fixed the problem. This is the current shutter design. And as you can see, for every single rotation that this shutter makes, we fully close the gate, we fully open it, we fully close it again, and we fully open it, which means we can advance and expose 2 frames for every single rotation that this shutter makes. Here is my new design, and you'll notice that for every rotation this shutter makes, we only get one of these covered and then uncovered phases, which means if we wanted to expose as many frames with this shutter as we did with this one, we'd have to spin this guy twice as fast. Now keep in mind that both of these shutters expose the frame for the exact same amount of time. So you might be thinking, what's the difference? Well, because this shutter has to spin at twice the speed, the leading edge of the shutter moves across our gate faster, meaning we spend less time in this half open, half closed phase and more time fully closed. How much more time, you ask? Not much, but I'm hoping it's just enough. Okay. Well, here goes nothing. I mean, it went through. Well, look at that. As far as the light's concerned, those frames are completely stationary. And with this, we sort of have the fundamental part of our video camera done. And if we just added a few more sprockets to help feed the film, some holders for the film spools, oh my word, and then put it all into this bin from Bunnings, we would have a video camera. I see you dance with your new man. That is what the inside looks like. Is it not so sick? Well, let's see if we can fool any of those critics. And it's going. It's going. First ever attempt with a camera and first ever attempt with a backflip. I could be somebody else. Well, there's one thing for certain. We're not fooling any critics with that. But oh my word, we made a video camera. And isn't it cool to think that with nothing more than my rip-off Ender 3 clones, Dad's angle grinder, this tiny little drill press and my relatively affordable resin printer, that we were able to build a camera that actually did take a video. And I think it just goes to show all the things that you might be capable of when there's no one there to tell you that you aren't. You know, and it actually reminds me of this saying from this old Australian politician, Bob, who said,
"Let there be 1,000 blossoms bloom as far as I'm concerned." You know, but I ain't spending any time on it.
Right, yes, sorry Bob, I think I lost my way a little there because our camera is currently nowhere near what we set out to achieve and I'm not ready to call it good enough just yet, so we need to get back to work. To keep us on track, I have created a list of everything that we need to fix to make the camera perfect. I'll come clean, when I was writing this list, I underestimated how much room I would need, and it sort of ended up joining with my personal Henry to-do list. It's really just sort of this stuff above this line here that we need to worry about. I mean, so the first thing we need to do is sort out the shake that's in the frame. My first guess is that the stepper motor that drives our sprocket and moves our film isn't stopping in the exact same spot every time. However, if we zoom right into one of the teeth on our sprocket, we can see that it is moving, but in a very periodic way that I don't think you'd expect from a stepper motor missing its mark. If we zoom back out again and make one frame from the sequence red, it becomes pretty obvious that the sprocket itself is warped. Not to fear, I'll just reprint it, but this time, not warped. That's not much better. It's probably just a coincidence. Let's try again. It's worse. Well, it looks like we're stuck with the wobbly sprocket. But that doesn't mean we're stuck with the shaky footage. You see, unlike the shake you might expect from a digital camera where all the frames become blurry, our shake is really just a miscommunication between the camera and the scanner that takes our physical strip of film and turns it into a video that we can watch on our screens. If we have a look at our frames individually, they are all sharp. Sharp might not be the word to use actually, but there is no sign of motion blur, which means that the camera is bringing the film to a complete stop. It's just not doing it in the exact same spot every time. Sometimes the frame might be a little closer to the previous one, and sometimes a little further away. But our scanner doesn't know this, and it's expecting all the frames to be in the exact same position. So when it moves our film through, sometimes the frame ends up a little higher than it was expecting, and sometimes a little lower, and that's what creates this shaking effect. So if we knew by exactly how far our frames were misaligned, we could act as a sort of Google Translate and reverse this misalignment. On stationary footage, this is easy. We can just measure how many pixels any fixed point has moved, and then reverse it. But for any shots where the camera is not stationary, that doesn't work. So we need another way to measure this distance that is constant regardless of how the camera moves. Well, how about the actual gate frame itself? If we just added some sort of feature to it so it was easy to track, then it wouldn't matter what the camera was doing, we would always be able to measure how the frames are moving. Brilliant. Frame shake, done. Next, we need to stop the film from getting scratched. To try and stop the scratching, I sanded up to 3000 grit and then polished any part of the camera that came into contact with the film. Next, add a viewfinder so that we can see what the camera sees. Henry? Henry? Viewfinder? Are you there? No? Okay, whatever, fine. We'll move on, that's all right. Deal with the light leaks. Light leaking into the camera is causing these foggy looking areas on the film, and that's because for the UV curable resin we use in the printer to be cured, it has to be somewhat translucent to light. That means the film that's meant to be hiding from the light behind our resin printed gate is still being exposed. So if we give the gate a few coats of silver metallic paint to block the light and then a coat of black to stop it reflecting, we should be doing much better. But to further reduce any light bouncing around inside and causing these marks, I covered all of the gate and shutter assembly with this black felt, which as you can see reflects far less light than the black plastic. Here's the old version and here's the new one. Pretty neat. Next on the list, fix dust around the frame. This dust around our frame is this very fine powder that's caused by our resin printed gears rubbing against each other, and actually, is he okay? Well, I think the dust problem sorted itself, but just in case, I reprinted the gears out of a special resin that doesn't powder. And finally, we need to work out why the image isn't in focus. Whilst this just looks like I'm really bad at setting manual focus, that's actually not the problem here. One of the most critical measurements on a camera is the flange focal distance, which is the distance between the lens mount, or the flange, and the sensor, or in our case, the film plane. This distance is decided by whatever lens system that you're using, which for us is Sony's E-mount. All E-mount lenses are designed to focus their light precisely 18mm back from the lens mount. If our film sits any more or less than 18mm away, the focus plane will end up not being where your lens markings say it is. And our camera doesn't have a viewfinder, so the lens markings are the only way to tell if a shot's going to be in focus, so they need to be accurate. Now, we can measure the distance of our FFD very precisely using this little tool here, which is called a depth micrometer. We are very simply just going to sit the micrometer on top of the lens mount and just twist this knob until the probe on the bottom runs into that metal block, and we'll hear a nice satisfying click. So this is telling us that our flange focal distance is currently 17.89mm. Which is pretty close to 18mm, right? Wrong. See, in the world of flange focal distances, a millimeter is a mile. In fact, we need to get this dimension accurate down to a 100th of a millimeter. That's about half the thickness of a human hair. So what's the plan? Well, the FFD being undersized is actually intentional. I figured I would make the parts smaller than they needed to be, and then use shims to bring it up to tolerance. The trouble was, I was having a hard time finding the exact shims we needed to fill our gap. The slimmest I could find was 0.05, which stacked together get pretty close to filling it, but not quite close enough. Printer paper is another cool option, and we can very easily cut our shims out of it using a vinyl cutter. However, it too comes in 0.01mm shy. So how are we going to fill this gap? Well, I'm actually not sure just yet, but I did just find this forum online that's filled with people that seem to know everything there is to know about film cameras. So I made a post explaining what we're doing and just asked if anyone knew where I might find something this small. Fingers crossed they might have a helpful answer for us, but I shall let you know if they let me know. Alright, so it's been a few days since we posted that. We've got a couple responses here. The first one's from Tyler, who says, so 3D printed material, no matter what it is, will never have the tolerances for a proper FFD. There is no way a 3D printed camera would actually create proper images. Well, Tyler from Los Angeles, we'll see about that. After reading Tyler's supporting words, I'd realized exactly where I was going to find my missing 100th of a millimeter. Step on it.
So 1, 2, 3, take my hand and come with me because you look so fine that I really want to make you mine. I say you look so fine that I really want to make you mine. Big black boots, long brown hair. She's so sweet with her get back stare. Well, I could see you home with me, but you were with another man, yeah.
We know that printer paper by itself comes in just shy of our 0.11mm mark.
Before I let you get away, yeah.
But what if we added something incredibly small to it?
I said, are you gonna be my girl?
Well, with our flange depth set, the only thing left to do was test the camera out. But I don't think the Bunnings bin is going to cut it this time.
All right, that'll do.
Pensé 2 veces antes de que tome la juegues con que ya yo no sé. No te hagas la víctima, tú sabes claramente lo que hiciste. Cometimos errores, pero esta vez no vuelvo porque te pasas de lanza.
Here it is. Well, if nothing else, at least it looks cool, but we didn't build a camera to look cool, we built it to take a good looking shot, so let's go see what it can do.
I see you dance with your new man.
With both the camera and Danae on board, we set off to make history.
You should think about me.
All right, second attempt at the camera. Here we go.
Please, for someone I cut.
You did this to me, didn't you? You made the camera not work, I know it. But I just can't prove it. Maybe Tyler was right. Maybe I am in over my head.
Where is the moment we needed the
Maybe
most?
3D printing a 16mm film camera is truly not possible.
You kick up the leaves and the magic is lost.
And I mean, really, I was probably a bit harsh on you guys as well. I mean, yes, like, you did break the camera and like it was your fault that it didn't work and whatever, and you were just sort of sitting there not doing like anything the whole time, which is fine. I guess I probably was, yeah. I mean, I probably didn't need to take it out on you. You were probably beating yourself up enough anyway, so. Pardon? No, sorry, I must have misheard. Sorry, I just thought you were saying how, you know, even though maybe I didn't achieve what I set out to, and maybe I was a little bit harsh on you guys at points, that you were still gonna like and subscribe, but I must have misheard. So.
Tell me your life's been way offline. You fall to pieces every time, and I don't need no care.
Henry, there's nothing wrong with the camera. It's just one of the screws that tensions the feed sprocket vibrated loose when you were driving up to do the filming. Just grab a screwdriver, tighten it down a little bit, and then maybe stop blaming these guys for your mistakes. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Let's try this one last time. Also, this song you've been listening to was made by my brother and his friend Navex, and honestly, it goes kind of crazy. So finally, after all this hard work, something, blah, 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 everything's impossible, hopefully it works, who knows. You guys know the drill by this stage. What you really want to know is how does it look? Well, you tell me. You've been watching it this whole time.
Wish I could be somebody else, 'cause I don't have you right by my side, even though you promised it was you and I. Wish I could be somebody else, 'cause I don't have you right by my side. So many insecurities, please don't leave me here inside of my head. Wish I could be somebody else, 'cause I don't have you right by my side, even though you promised it was you and I. Even though you promised it was you and I.
Well, guys, we kind of did it. But I still wanted to know if we managed to fool any critics, and I figured who better to test it on than the man who said this couldn't be done. So I made a fake account and posted some of my videos on the camera form, claiming they were shot on the exact same $17,000 camera that Tyler owns. Did it pass? Well, that is the end of the video. Just before you run away though, I don't think it's fair that I'm the only one that has to deal with the burden of voting one of these. So I'm gonna make a whole nother one and I'm gonna give it away to one of you. I'm gonna be doing the giveaway on my Patreon. It's not something you have to be a paid member for. It's open to everyone and is free of entry, but it's just my cheeky little way of getting you over there. And I guess if you're interested while you're there, I'd love you to subscribe. All the information will be on a post when you get to my Patreon, but the winner will be announced on Christmas Day as like a bit of a Christmas,
Jack, man, come on, where you at, man? I'm like, who's that, man? You're Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman,